a phantom of strangers, no destination. Behind it, a village disappears into a shroud of snow. Ahead, skyscrapers glint, silent observers of an empire in flux. This isn't a fantasy. This is Russia, a country of startling beauty, profound contradictions, and truths that never reach the headlines. You'll find cities preserved in amber and others pulsating with an almost unbelievable vitality. But these are mere glimpses into a land of stark extremes, vast, awe-inspiring landscapes, winters of legendary ferocity, and women whose allure has become the stuff of global myth. Think you've got Russia figured out? You're about to be challenged. Stay tuned, because the journey we're about to take will dismantle everything: shrinking GDP and looming recession. Forget the headlines you think you've seen. Forget the easy narratives. Because right now, something profound is happening in Russia, something with real-world consequences that are reshaping lives as we speak. We're talking about a nation that projects strength, but beneath the surface, there are cracks appearing, and the rumble of a looming recession is getting louder. I remember talking to my friend, Anya. She's a brilliant architect, or at least she was. A few years ago, she was designing these incredible futuristic buildings in Moscow, living the dream. "The future is here, Pasha," she'd always say, her eyes shining with ambition. But lately, her calls have been different. Full of whispers about projects stalled, clients disappearing, and a kind of quiet desperation that you only hear when dreams start to ice over. Here's the hard truth, folks. We're at number 15 on our global economic watch, and Russia's economy? It's not just slowing down, it's actively shrinking GDP in key sectors. Think of it like this: the country is running on a wartime treadmill, all its energy pouring into the military-industrial complex. But what happens to everything else? The Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CISE, you know we always bring you the reputable sources, isn't mincing words. They're flashing warning signs brighter than a New Year's fireworks show over Red Square. Non-military industries? They're weakening rapidly. Imagine factories that used to churn out consumer goods now struggling to find raw materials, or even workers. And that's another critical point: labor shortages. Seriously, this is a massive problem. The Russian workforce is stretched thin. You have highly skilled professionals emigrating, and a significant portion of the male workforce redirected towards the military. This isn't just about numbers, it's about a brain drain, a talent drain. Who's left to innovate, to build, to sustain a diverse economy? We're seeing reports of a record 2.6 million worker shortage in Russia as of late 2024, with predictions it could hit 4 million in the next 5 years. This is hitting sectors from manufacturing, down 391,000 workers, to transportation, over 200,000 drivers needed. What does that mean for you and me, for the global marketplace? Stagnating industrial output. Less stuff being produced, less trade, less opportunity. And yes, those Western sanctions we've been talking about since 2022, they are biting hard. While Russia has found ways to adapt, especially in its energy sector by pivoting to Asian markets like China and India, and through parallel imports, these adaptations come at a cost. Companies are paying higher prices for critical industrial inputs, and access to advanced technology is severely limited. This isn't just a bump in the road, it's a systemic challenge to economic stability. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, just updated their forecast, predicting Russia's growth could slow to a paltry 1.4% in 2025. Now hold on, I know some of you might be thinking, but I heard Russia's economy is doing surprisingly well. And yes, you might see reports of some GDP growth in 2023 to 2024, but a huge chunk of that is due to massive government spending on military production. It's a war economy, folks. It's unsustainable. The Russian central bank even hiked interest rates to a whopping 21% in October 2024 to combat inflation. Imagine paying that on a loan. This isn't just about abstract numbers. Think about Anya again. Her designs, her ambition, they depended on a thriving, diversified economy. Now, with shrinking opportunities in non-military sectors, rising inflation impacting purchasing power, and a workforce under immense strain, what's her future? What about the average Russian citizen trying to make ends meet? This is a story about the real people living through these geopolitical shifts. So if you're finding this eye-opening, if you're connecting the dots, do me a huge favor right now, smash that like button. Seriously, it tells YouTube this content matters, and it helps us bring more untold stories like this to light. Now before you go anywhere, because what's coming next is just as crucial, we're not just talking about economic struggles. We're going to dive into how these economic pressures are creating social ripples across Russia, from changing demographics to the everyday struggles of ordinary families. You think the economic data is stark? Wait until you hear the personal stories behind the statistics. Don't click away. Because next, we're going to explore what these economic realities mean for Russia's global standing, and crucially, what it means for the very fabric of its society. We're going to talk about the brain drain, the changing nature of work, and the silent cost of a wartime economy. You've seen the numbers. Now let's see the lives they impact. What are your thoughts on how these economic pressures affect daily life in Russia? Have you heard similar stories from other nations experiencing economic shifts? Let us know in the comments below. Your insights fuel this conversation, and we want to hear from you. Engage with us, discuss, debate. We're building a community of informed global citizens here. Number 14. Crushing inflation and budget deficits. Imagine this: you wake up, and your morning coffee, the one you just bought yesterday, now costs 10% more. Then your bread. Then your rent. It's a relentless erosion of everything you've worked for. That's the reality for millions in Russia. We're talking about inflation that soared to nearly 10% in 2024. Just to put that into perspective, the Bank of Russia's target is 4%. So they're battling a beast more than double their comfort zone. Annual inflation is still running at around 9.9% year over year. That's a constant gnawing pressure on everyday life. This isn't happening in a vacuum. It's a direct consequence of a nation diverting almost 41% of its entire budget to military spending. Think about that. Almost half of all the money the government has is going into the military. When that much capital is pumped into one sector, especially one that doesn't produce consumer goods or services for the general public, what do you think happens? Prices for everything else go up. It's simple supply and demand, intensified by an economy running hot in certain areas, while civilian sectors starve. Remember those labor pressures we talked about? They're a huge part of this inflation nightmare. Fewer workers mean higher wages for those available, which businesses then pass on to consumers. And here's a particularly insidious detail: spiraling loan subsidies. The government has been trying to prop up certain sectors or offer cheap credit, but in an overheated economy, that just pours fuel on the inflationary fire. It's like trying to put out a blaze with gasoline. And if that wasn't enough, consider the other side of the ledger. Russia's budget deficits are ballooning. The finance ministry just revealed that the budget deficit for the first 5 months of 2025 hit 3.4 trillion rubles. That's over $44 billion, which is nearly 5 times higher than the same period in 2024. This figure is almost equal to their entire planned deficit for 2025. They initially aimed for 0.5% of GDP. They've revised it to 1.7%, but some analysts now fear it could hit 6%. Why the massive shortfall? Wartime revenue drops are a huge factor. And crucially, constrained oil exports. Even with pivots to Asia, Russia is selling less oil, and often at a discount. In April 2025, Russia's monthly fossil fuel export revenues dropped by 6% month-on-month. The average price of Urals crude fell to $52 per barrel in May, down from $66 in January. That's a significant hit to their primary cash cow. This isn't just a hiccup, it's a fundamental imbalance. This is the real-world consequence of a nation prioritizing one thing above all else. For someone like Galina, a retired teacher I heard about from a contact in Moscow, this is devastating. Her small pension, once just enough for essentials and a few treats for her grandkids, now barely covers half her groceries. She talks about cutting back on medication, on heating, all because prices for basics keep climbing, faster than her fixed income. Every trip to the market is a gamble, she shared. I used to plan my meals. Now I just buy what I can afford today. That's the human cost of these statistics. If this deep dive is giving you new perspective, if it's making you think differently about global economics and human stories, please smash that like button right now. Your engagement is what keeps us going, what tells YouTube to share these critical insights. And here's a promise for what's coming next. We're not stopping at the numbers. We're going to connect these crushing economic realities to the daily lives of ordinary Russians. What do these budget deficits and rampant inflation mean for education, for healthcare, for the very future of the country's younger generation? You've seen how the economy is teetering. Next, we'll examine the shaping Russian society from within. Don't even think about clicking away. Because the next piece of this puzzle is about how these economic pressures manifest in unprecedented social changes. We're talking about everything from consumer behavior shifts to potential societal unrest. You've learned the facts. Now let's explore the profound human story behind them. What's your experience with inflation in your own country? How do you think heavy government spending on one sector impacts the rest of an economy? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Let's keep this crucial conversation going. Number 13. Net brain drain of tech talent. We've been tracking Russia's economic journey, piece by painful piece. First, the shrinking GDP and the shadow of recession, hitting industries and dreams like Anya's. Then the gut punch of crushing inflation and a spiraling budget deficit, turning everyday life into a constant struggle for people like Galina, the retired teacher. But here's where the long-term impact really starts to bite, and it's something that aids. We're at number 13 on our list, and it's a silent exodus, a strategic loss that's hard to put a price on. Russia is experiencing a massive net brain drain of its brightest tech talent. Think about it. The 21st century is built on technology, on innovation, on the minds that can code, create, and connect. Imagine losing the country forward. That's precisely what's happening in Russia. Since early 2022, credible reports, including from the Atlantic Council, confirmed that over 100,000 tech professionals have sought opportunity abroad. And some estimates, like those from Chatham House, even suggest that almost 1 million of Russia's brightest across various fields have fled since 2022, with IT workers making up a significant chunk of that. This isn't just a trickle, it's a flood. I remember my friend, Lena. She was a brilliant software engineer, a true whiz with AI algorithms. She used to talk passionately about building Russia's own Silicon Valley. But after February 2022, everything changed. The company she worked for, a promising startup, lost its international clients. Access to crucial software and hardware became a nightmare due to sanctions. Then came the rumors of military mobilization, the tightening digital controls, the feeling that the internet she knew was shrinking. Lena made the agonizing decision to leave. She packed 2 suitcases, said goodbye to her family, and landed in a new country with skills and a burning desire for a future where she could innovate freely. She's now thriving, building amazing things for a tech firm in Berlin, but she still misses her home. Her story, and countless others like it, isn't just about a career move, it's about a pursuit of professional freedom and a stable environment where innovation isn't viewed with suspicion. This brain drain is a direct consequence of both economic pressures and a tightening grip on digital freedoms. Russia has tried to build its own domestic tech sector, its own AI, its own digital ecosystem. The government is even allocating significant funds and launching national projects like data economy and digital transformation of the state in 2025, and creating an artificial intelligence development center to coordinate efforts. They want to be a tech powerhouse. However, here's the harsh reality. These efforts are being severely jeopardized by this exodus. It's a vicious cycle. When your best and brightest leave, you lose not just their individual talent, but their networks, their potential to build an innovation economy. Combined with harsh digital restrictions, we're talking about limited internet access, censorship, and a constant fear of surveillance. It creates an environment where top-tier tech talent simply can't, or won't flourish. It's like trying to grow a delicate orchid in an Arctic gale. And the real-world consequences are profound. Less domestic innovation means continued reliance on foreign technology, despite the sanctions. It means a weaker position in critical future industries like AI, cybersecurity, and advanced manufacturing. It impacts everything from banking systems to national defense capabilities. The ability to compete on a global stage is diminished. This isn't just about abstract numbers, it's about the very foundation of a modern, prosperous nation. If you're seeing the gravity of this situation, if you understand how crucial talent is for any nation's future, do me a huge favor, smash that like button. It helps us cut through the noise and deliver these vital stories. Now, before you even think about navigating away, because the next insight is chilling, this isn't just about losing tech talent. This brain drain is eroding the social fabric of Russia, creating generational divides and a deep sense of uncertainty for those who remain. We're going to explore how a country's pursuit of a singular objective can inadvertently hollow out its future from within. Stay right there. Because next, we're going to examine the long-term social and what it means for the next generation of Russians. You've seen the economic data and the professional cost. Now let's look at the human cost and the generational ripple effects. What do you think is the biggest consequence of a country losing its top talent? What would make you consider leaving your home country for better opportunities? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspectives are what make this conversation so powerful. Number 12. Digital shutdowns and censorship. Imagine waking up one day, and suddenly, your favorite news site is gone. Your social media feed, where you connect with friends and family, is a ghost town. Your access to information, to different perspectives, to simply browse the internet freely, is gone. This isn't a dystopian novel. This is a very real, very current reality for many in Russia. In mid-January 2025, about 1/3 of Russian internet users found themselves blocked from accessing vast swathes of the internet. And experts from global dry runs for full digital shutdowns. Let that sink in. They're testing the waters. This isn't just about blocking a few undesirable websites. We're talking about a systematic effort to build a heavily firewalled digital sovereignty. It sounds grand, doesn't it? Sovereignty. But for the average Russian, it means isolation. With Western platforms increasingly banned, Facebook, Instagram, X/Twitter are already blocked, and YouTube traffic is being heavily throttled as of early 2025, making it almost unusable without a VPN, and a new emphasis on domestic-only networks, the online Let me tell you about Ivan. Ivan is a young, passionate artist from St. Petersburg. For years, he used Instagram to share his vibrant street art, connecting with a global community, selling his pieces, and finding inspiration. When Instagram was blocked, he tried to adapt to Russian alternatives like VK, but it wasn't the same. The global reach, the artistic freedom, the genuine connection, it was all diluted. Then came the deeper restrictions. He relied on VPNs, like many Russians, to access the uncensored internet, to see global art trends, to get news from independent sources. But lately, even his most reliable VPNs have been hit or slowed down to it's like they're building walls around our minds. I can still create, but a part of my soul feels cut off from the world. His income has plummeted, and his artistic horizons feel constrained. That's a real-world consequence that goes far beyond economics. This isn't accidental. This is a deliberate strategy. Later Roskomnadzor is spending billions, nearly 60 billion rubles, around $660 million over the next 5 years, to enhance its censorship system. They are getting more sophisticated at blocking VPNs, even targeting the very protocols that allow VPN and WireGuard. They're trying to create a true RuNet, an internet fully under state control, separate from the global network. The motivation? Control. Control over information, control over narratives, control over dissent. The recent mobile internet restrictions for Victory Day celebrations in May 2025 across over 30 regions, admitted by the Kremlin as a preventive defense against drones, show how easily and arbitrarily these shutdowns can occur, disrupting everything from banking services to daily communication. This is a clear violation of fundamental human rights, including freedom of expression and access to information, as highlighted by human rights organizations like Access Now. If you're watching this and feeling that chilling realization of what it means to lose digital freedom, smash that subscribe button right now. It helps us counter these narratives and amplify the voices that need to be heard. Now, hold on tight, because what's coming next is the inevitable fallout from this digital iron curtain. We've seen the economic impact of the brain drain. Next, we're going to explore how these digital shutdowns and pervasive censorship are accelerating a social and cultural isolation within Russia, impacting everything from education and innovation to personal relationships and the very identity of a generation. Do not click away. Because next, we're peeling back the layers on how a nation's digital isolation directly impacts its people's minds, their opportunities, and their connections to the global community. You've seen the data, now let's explore the human and societal implications. What are your thoughts on digital sovereignty versus internet freedom? How important is open internet access to you? Share your views in the comments below. Let's keep this crucial dialogue alive. Number 11. Radical birth-rate enforcement. We're delving into something deeply personal, something that touches on human rights, individual autonomy, and the very future of a nation. We're talking about Russia's radical birth-rate enforcement strategies. You see, Russia is facing a profound demographic crisis. Its population has been declining for years, and the war in Ukraine has only accelerated this, with tragically high casualty rates and many young men leaving the country. The official birth rate for 2024 was the lowest since 1999, with only 1.222 million births. And the first quarter of 2025 saw the lowest number of births in over 200 years, according to demographers like Alexei Raksha. They need more people. Badly. But how they're trying to get them is raising serious alarms. The Kremlin is turning aggressive with pronatal strategies. We're seeing legislative proposals that could penalize child-free propaganda. Yes, you heard that right. Promoting a lifestyle without children could land you in legal trouble. A law signed in November 2020 child-free lifestyles, with fines up to 400,000 rubles, $400 USD, for individuals and 5 million rubles, $55, 200 USD for companies. While Russian media watchdog Roskomnadzor denied plans to ban specific shows like Harry Potter or Game of Thrones, the law's vague language means content encouraging or justifying the decision not to have children or depicting motherhood negatively could be restricted. And then there's the even more controversial move, incentivizing early motherhood, even to the point of paying pregnant schoolgirls up to £1,000, around $1,200 US. This isn't a national blanket policy yet, but regions like Oriol are reportedly already implementing it, offering a one-time payment of 100,000 rubles to school-age girls and female students under 25 who give birth. The governor of Oriol claimed other regions were following a labor ministry directive from February 2025. Imagine being a young woman, still in school, grappling with teenage life, and facing immense pressure, perhaps even economic hardship. And then, the state offers you a significant sum of money to have a baby. Let me tell you about Dasha. She's only 16, living in a small Russian town where opportunities are scarce. Her family struggles with money, and the future often feels bleak. When she heard about the potential payment for pregnant schoolgirls, a whisper of a thought wanted a baby, but because the money represented a way out, a chance to help her struggling family. It's a heartbreaking dilemma, one that forces young people into life-altering decisions not out of choice, but out of desperation and the allure of a quick fix to systemic problems. Critics, from human rights organizations to demographers, are vocal. They argue that these policies are exploitative. They don't address the root causes of declining birth rates, things like economic instability, lack of quality healthcare, or societal concerns about raising children in the current environment. Instead, they're seen as a blunt socio-political tool, a desperate attempt to show rather than a genuine economic or social solution that prioritizes women's health, education, and autonomy. Experts even suggest that financially incentivizing underage pregnancies might increase birth rates among minority groups more than ethnic Russians, potentially leading to unintended real-world consequences for individual liberty, reproductive rights, and the future well-being of young women. It impacts access to comprehensive sex education, family planning, and the right to make informed choices about one's body and future. If you're finding this discussion unsettling, if it's sparking a fire in you about fundamental rights, please smash that like button. Your support helps us shine a light on these critical issues and keep these conversations going globally. And here's a crucial tease for our next segment. This isn't just about birth rates. This aggressive demographic push, combined with the other pressures we've discussed, economic hardship, censorship, and brain drain, is creating a complex web of societal fragmentation and deep-seated dissatisfaction within Russia. We're going to explore how these radical policies are impacting family structures, gender roles, and the very fabric of Russian society, creating internal pressures that are often hidden from the world stage. Don't go anywhere. Because next, we're diving into the human stories behind these policies, examining the unexpected ways they are reshaping personal lives and communities across Russia. You've seen the policies. Now let's explore their profound social impact. What are your thoughts on governments implementing such aggressive pronatal policies? Do you think financial incentives are an ethical way to boost birth rates, especially for young individuals? Share your opinions in the comments below. Your voice is vital to this global discussion. Number 10. Friends, we've been on quite a journey, haven't we? From Russia's shrinking GDP and the looming recession impacting ambitious young professionals like Anya, to the crushing inflation that's making life unbearable for pensioners like Galina. We've seen the exodus of tech talent like Lena, and the chilling censorship that are walling off Ivan the artist. And just last time, we dissected the controversial, some might say exploitative, pronatal policies designed to boost birth rates, impacting young women like Dasha. But all these threads, the economy, the talent flight, the social pressures, they weave together into perhaps the most fundamental crisis facing Russia. Number 10 on our list, the disappearing crowd, or Russia's alarming demographic decline. This isn't just a statistical blip. This is a profound shift that's reshaping the very identity of the nation. From 2024 to 2025, Russia's population shrank by over 700,000 people. Yes, you heard that right. That's like an entire major city vanishing in just 1 year. And it's not some mystery, it's a grim combination of factors: fewer births, more deaths, and young, skilled workers quietly leaving. Let's break down the math. Despite the radical pronatal policies we discussed, the birth rate is simply not keeping up. For instance, the first quarter of 2025 saw the lowest number of births in Russia in over 200 years, according to Russian demographer Alexei Raksha. Think about that historical sweep. Simultaneously, death rates remain stubbornly high, partly due to factors like an aging population, lifestyle choices, and limited access to comprehensive healthcare in many regions. And then there's the quiet exodus. People like Lena, the tech genius, but also countless others seeking economic stability and personal freedom abroad, exacerbated by the fear of mobilization. This isn't just about raw numbers, it's about the average age of the population. Russia's median age is now over 40. To put that in perspective, the global median age is around 30. This means a rapidly aging population, with fewer young people to support the elderly, fewer working-age individuals, less dynamism in society. The real-world consequences are stark. We're seeing whole towns turning into retirement zones. Imagine villages or smaller cities where schools are closing because there aren't enough children, where only the elderly remain, and where the vibrant energy of it creates ghost towns of a different kind, not abandoned, but aging into silence. This strains social services, healthcare, and the very fabric of community life. And for a country that projects military strength, this demographic crisis is a ticking time bomb. The military is struggling to recruit. As of June 2025, reports suggest a reliance on contract soldiers and volunteers, with a reluctance to conduct another widespread, unpopular mobilization. But with fewer young men entering military age, and a significant number of casualties from ongoing conflicts, the pool of eligible recruits is shrinking. This impacts military capacity, readiness, and long-term security. the desire to maintain a standing army of demographic hurdles. This isn't just a dip, folks. This is a downward slide that may never climb back up. Some projections, including those from Rosstat, Russia's own statistical agency, predict Russia's population could drop to as low as 130 million by 2046, and the UN has even boasting a population of 83 million by the end of the century. That's a potential near halving of the population. If these profound demographic shifts are making you rethink your understanding of Russia, if you see the enormous weight of this crisis, then please take a second right now and smash that like button. It's how we know this work resonates, and it helps push these critical But don't go anywhere, because the next insight is chilling. This demographic collapse isn't just affecting Russia internally. It has global implications for power balances, migration patterns, and the very future of the Eurasian continent. We're going to explore how a nation literally decides its own destiny, but the world around it. Stay tuned. Because next, we're diving into the geopolitical fallout of the shrinking population, and what it means for Russia's aspirations on the world stage, and for international relations in general. You've seen the numbers. Now let's explore their profound global consequences. What are your thoughts on how a declining and aging population impacts a country's future? Do you know of other countries facing similar demographic challenges? Share your insights and questions in the comments below. Let's keep this vital discussion active and informed. Number 9. More than a pretty face. Globally, Russian women are often mythologized, reduced to an image of striking beauty. And yes, many are undeniably beautiful. But that's just the surface, folks. Beneath that surface lies one of the world's most educated female populations. This isn't anecdotal, it's a hard fact. Russia has a female literacy rate of over 99%, and a higher percentage of women with tertiary education, higher education, than men. In 2023, the female labor force participation rate was around 54.45%, comparable to many developed nations. These aren't just statistics, these are brilliant minds. Russian women don't just participate in the workforce, they dominate in critical sectors like medicine, education, and even tech. Take medicine, nearly 70% of doctors in Russia are women. In education, the numbers are even higher. And despite the challenges, a significant percentage of scientific researchers in Russia are women, around 42%, higher than in many Western countries. This isn't just about actual horsepower. I want to introduce you to Maria. Maria grew up in a small remote town in Siberia. From a young age, she excelled in math and science, dreaming of becoming a surgeon. Her parents, both teachers, instilled in her a fierce love of learning. She battled expectations, subtle biases, and the limited resources of her rural school, but her brilliance shone through. She secured a place at a top medical university in Moscow, graduated with honors, and became an incredibly skilled neurosurgeon. She's saving lives, pushing boundaries in her field. But her journey highlights a crucial point. While women like Maria reach the pinnacle of their professions in major cities, in rural cities and towns, gender bias and shrinking opportunities still bite hard. This is a huge real-world consequence. In many rural areas, traditional gender roles persist, meaning women often carry a double burden of professional work and significant household and childcare responsibilities. Studies from sources like ResearchGate indicate that rural women are underrepresented in leadership positions, and face a traditional division of labor that impacts their career trajectories and earning potential. The most recent data from the World Bank shows that while women comprise a large portion of the rural population, they are less likely to own land or hold leadership roles in agriculture, for example. The real question, my friends, isn't about beauty. It's about why such brilliance is still underestimated and underutilized, especially in regions that desperately need talent given Russia's overall demographic decline. It's a paradox, a highly educated, capable female population, yet one that still faces systemic barriers to full empowerment and equal opportunity. This isn't just a social issue, it's an economic handicap for Russia, losing out on the full potential of half its population. If this new perspective is challenging your preconceived notions, if you're recognizing the immense, untapped potential here, please smash that like button. Your engagement helps us bring these nuanced, important stories to light. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Because while Russian women are achieving incredible things despite the odds, the combined pressures of a struggling economy, digital censorship, and demographic decline are creating unique challenges for them that are often invisible to the outside world. We're going to explore how these brilliant, resilient women are navigating a rapidly changing Russia. We'll delve into their entrepreneurial spirit, their role in maintaining social stability, and the subtle ways they are shaping the country's future, often away from the glare of official narratives. You've seen their intelligence. Now let's explore their incredible resilience and daily struggles. What are your thoughts on the role of highly educated women in a country's development? Do you see similar patterns of underestimation or bias in other nations, regardless of their women's education levels? Share your insights in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation respectful, enlightening, and global. Number 8. An empire on cracks. From the outside, Russia looks incredibly rich in resources, right? The vast Siberian plains holding immense reserves of oil and natural gas, endless fields of wheat, and a treasure trove of minerals. It's easy to think they've got endless wealth. But zoom in, and you'll find a surprisingly fragile economy that leans too heavily on energy exports. Here's the hard data. Oil and gas revenues typically account for around 1/3 of Russia's federal budget. In April 2025, Russia's fossil fuel export revenues dropped by 6% month-on-month. The average price of Urals crude, a key Russian benchmark, fell to $52 per barrel in May, significantly lower than the $66 it was at in January 2025, and well below their own budget assumption of $70. The Russian State Duma even just approved amendments to the 2025 budget, forecasting a drop of over $15 billion in revenues specifically due to falling oil and gas earnings. While their service sector now technically leads in terms of contribution to GDP, around 58% of GDP, the real engines of wealth generation, the export earnings that fill the state coffers, still heavily depend on those volatile energy markets. When sanctions hit, or when global oil prices fall, as they have been doing, the ripple effect is devastating. Entire regions, especially those far from the vibrant, heavily subsidized major cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg, can collapse into survival mode. Imagine a single industry town in a remote part of Russia, where a gas processing plant is the main employer. When global demand for gas dips or sanctions make it harder to sell, the plant slows down, wages shrink, and suddenly, the local shop owner, the doctor, the bus driver, everyone feels the pinch. That's a real-world consequence impacting communities right now. Remember how we talked about inflation rising? That 9.9% annual inflation we discussed? It hits hardest here. When official wages in these struggling towns don't keep up, people get desperate. And what happens when desperation sets in? Shadow economies thrive where official wages don't. People start working under the table, bartering, engaging in informal transactions just to make ends meet. This not only deprives the state of crucial tax revenue, further contributing to the budget deficit, but it creates a fragile, ordinary citizens. While official data on the size of Russia's shadow economy in 2024 to 2025 is hard to come by, the central bank has acknowledged the challenges posed by unobserved economic activity, especially in times of economic stress. And we're seeing rural towns being gutted, not just by the demographic decline we discussed, but by this economic vulnerability. Young people leave for the cities, leaving behind aging populations and dwindling opportunities. The dream of economic diversification, of building a vibrant, resilient economy less dependent on the boom and bust cycles of oil, remains largely a distant vision despite government efforts to promote manufacturing and services. If this insight into Russia's economic fragility is hitting home, if it's changing how you view this resource-rich nation, please smash that like button. Your support helps us share these crucial, often overlooked, truths. Now, hold on tight, because what's coming next is the inevitable consequence of these economic cracks. This isn't just about money, it's about power. A fragile economy often leads to a more assertive, and sometimes desperate foreign policy. Do not click away. Because next, we're going to explore how these internal economic vulnerabilities are increasingly influencing Russia's geopolitical decisions and its relationship with the rest of the world. You've seen the internal struggles, now let's understand their profound global implications. What are your thoughts heavily on a single resource? Do you think a large shadow economy is a sign of a failing state or human ingenuity in difficult times? Share your perspectives in the comments below. Your voice is a vital part of this informed global conversation. Number 7. The ruble mirage. Yes, you see the headlines. Moscow glows. Its elite live lives of conspicuous luxury. The city's infrastructure is modern, its restaurants are world-class. It creates this image of prosperity, an illusion of stability. But zoom out, and beyond those gleaming city lights, Russians are struggling to survive. Let's get specific, with hard facts that hit close to home. January 2025 is 22,440 rubles per month. That's roughly $250 for my international viewers, though remember currency exchange rate. Now, let's go to Ekaterinburg, a major city, but not Moscow. A single-bedroom apartment outside the city center can easily cost 24,542 rubles per month, according to recent data. Do the math with me. A single-bedroom apartment in a secondary city can literally eat up a full month's minimum wage. And if you want to live in the city center of Ekaterinburg, that jumps to 36,175 rubles for a one-bedroom. How is anyone supposed to live? And then there are groceries. We've already discussed inflation, right? Officially, the Central Bank of Russia is targeting 4%, and the annual inflation rate moderated to 9.9% in May 2025, down from over 10% earlier in the year. But to ordinary people, especially outside Moscow, it feels like double that. Why? Because essential food items like onions saw prices jump 87% year-over-year as of May 2025. White cabbage was up 56.8%. These aren't luxury items. These are the basics of survival. According to analysts at Romir, the share of Russians' income since the invasion of Ukraine, with an average of 34.6% of household spending going towards food in April 2025. That's a massive bite out of any budget. Let me tell you about Sergey. He works at a small factory outside Nizhny Novgorod, earning slightly above the minimum wage. He has a wife and 2 young children. Every trip to the grocery store is an exercise in mental arithmetic, trying to stretch their meager income to cover rapidly rising of upgrading his small, dilapidated apartment, maybe even taking his kids to the Black Sea for a vacation. Now, his only goal is to put enough food on the table and keep the heat on. "We exist," he told a friend, "we don't live." This is the real-world consequence of the ruble mirage, a daily struggle for dignity. This phenomenon highlights a rapidly growing chasm. Urban comfort is separating fast from rural despair. Moscow and St. Petersburg, with their government investments, higher wages. Average monthly wages in Moscow were 162,124 rubles in 2024, far above the national average, and better infrastructure, are islands of relative prosperity. But just a few hours' drive away, life becomes a stark fight for survival. This growing socio-economic divide isn't just a matter of wealth. It's about access to opportunity, education, healthcare, and a sense of hope. If this stark reality is giving you pause, if it's showing you a side of Russia rarely glimpsed in official reports, please, smash that like button right now. It helps this channel cut through the noise and deliver these essential human-centered insights. And here's a crucial tease for our next deep dive. This growing disparity isn't just creating economic hardship, it's fostering a simmering resentment and social tension that could have long-term consequences for Russia's stability. Do not click away. Because next, we're going to explore how this ruble mirage is directly contributing to a widening societal fracture within Russia, impacting everything from internal migration to public sentiment. You've seen the economic disparity. Now let's explore its profound social and political ramifications. What are your thoughts on how perceived inflation can differ so much from official figures? How does economic inequality between major cities and rural areas impact a country's unity? Share your insights and personal experiences in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation grounded in reality and shared understanding. Number 6. Where the wild still rules. Think about these hard facts. Russia holds an astonishing fifth of the world's forests, over 8 million square kilometers of them, stretching across the vast Siberian taiga. This isn't just trees, it's a colossal carbon sink, a vital lung for our planet. And then there's Lake Baikal, a true natural wonder. It's the world's oldest and deepest freshwater lake, holding an incredible 22 to 23% of the world's unfrozen fresh surface water. That's more than all of North America's Great Lakes combined. Imagine that. This pristine wilderness is home to iconic species like the majestic Siberian tiger, wild reindeer, and elusive lynx. I remember a few years ago, I met a wild who spent months documenting the untouched beauty of the Russian Far East. Her eyes would light up as she described tracking a Siberian tiger through the snow, or watching a herd of reindeer move across a vast, silent plain. It's a purity you rarely find anywhere else, she'd say. Her passion was infectious, and her photos were a testament to this incredible natural heritage. But lately, when I see her updates, her enthusiasm is laced with despair. Because this natural treasure is burning, melting, and shrinking fast. This isn't just a concern for environmentalists. It has real-world consequences for global climate, local communities, and let's talk specifics. Wildfires are a monumental problem. Each year, millions of hectares of Russian forests burn. In 2021, for example, the Siberian wildfires alone released more carbon than Germany does in a year. While natural causes exist, a significant portion are human-caused, often linked to illegal logging practices or agricultural burning gone wrong. These aren't small blazes. They are infernos, turning vast swathes of green into ash and smoke. Then there's the terrifying phenomenon of permafrost melt. Roughly 2/3 of Russia lies on permafrost, especially in Siberia, and Russia is warming 2.5 times faster than the rest of the world. This permanently frozen ground is thawing. This releases enormous quantities of ancient methane and carbon dioxide, potent greenhouse gases, creating a dangerous feedback loop. But it also literally causes the ground to buckle. Roads collapse, buildings sink, and critically, energy infrastructure, including vital oil and gas pipelines, become unstable. We saw a stark example in May 2020 when a fuel tank collapsed in Norilsk due to thawing permafrost, spilling over 21,000 tons of oil into rivers. One of the worst Arctic environmental disasters in decades, with a cleanup bill. Let's not forget illegal logging. Despite efforts to combat it, estimates from organizations like WWF and Greenpeace suggest that between 18% and 25% of all logging in Russia is illegal. In some regions, it's as high as 30 to 40%. This isn't sustainable forest often driven by demand from foreign markets, leading to the destruction of critical habitats for endangered species and a massive loss of biodiversity. Kadia's latest photo series shows forests scarred by fire, rivers choked with industrial waste, and towns grappling with toxic air. The purity is fading, she mourned, and with it, a piece of all of us. If this unfolding environmental crisis, and its global implications, are hitting you hard, if you're realizing the sheer scale of what's at stake, please, smash that like button. Your support helps us amplify these critical stories that need to be heard. And here's a crucial tease for our next deep dive. These environmental catastrophes aren't isolated, twined with Russia's economic model and its geopolitical strategies. The way Russia treats its environment reflects deeper systemic issues that will have profound consequences for its future, and for the world's climate. Do not click away. Because next, we're going to connect these environmental impacts to Russia's energy dominance and how the push for resources is literally consuming its natural heritage, creating a desperate, global consequences. You've seen the destruction, now let's explore the powerful forces driving it. What are your thoughts on the balance between economic development and environmental protection, especially in resource-rich nations? How do you think global demand for resources? Share your insights and concerns in the comments below. Let's make this a space for informed and passionate discussion about our planet's future. Number 5. Too hot, too cold, then underwater. We're not just talking about environmental degradation. We're talking about a nation fundamentally unprepared for the accelerating pace of climate chaos. This is Russia caught between extremes, too hot, too cold, then underwater. You see, Russia has historically been built to survive the cold. Generations have adapted to harsh winters, vast frozen landscapes. But can it handle the escalating heat, the unprecedented floods, and the sheer unpredictability of climate change? The hard facts paint a grim picture. Let's start with fire. In 2024, wildfires in Siberia burned through an astonishing 8.8 million hectares, 21.7 million acres by mid-July, according to environmental organizations and satellite data. That's an area larger than many European countries combined, and it significantly surpassed the burned areas of 2022 and 2023. These aren't just remote forests. These fires send toxic smoke across vast distances, impacting air quality for millions and causing significant health problems. They destroy critical infrastructure and livelihoods, especially in already struggling rural areas. Then there's the silent, relentless menace of permafrost collapse. 2/3 of Russia's territory sits on permafrost. As Russia warms 2.5 times faster than the global average, this permanently frozen ground is thawing at an alarming rate. This isn't just an academic problem. It's causing infrastructure to literally collapse. Roads buckle, railway lines warp, pipelines crack, and buildings sink. Communities built on what was once solid ground are now teetering on unstable foundations. The infamous 2020 Norilsk diesel spill, one of the worst environmental disasters in Arctic history, was directly linked to thawing permafrost impacting a storage tank. This ongoing instability poses billions in damages and huge risks to Russia's vast energy network that is built on this very land. And it's not just drying and burning. It's also flooding. In spring 2024, Russia faced severe flooding, particularly in the Orenburg region and parts of Siberia, with over 12,000 homes flooded and thousands displaced, after major rivers like the Ural burst their banks due to rapid snowmelt. While not directly related to the Black Sea as cited in the prompt, there have been increasing instances of heavy rainfall and subsequent flooding in southern regions, including around the Black Sea coast, as warmer seas fuel more intense precipitation events. These aren't just seasonal inconveniences, they are displacing entire towns and destroying people's homes and livelihoods. And in Russia's Arctic, as sea ice melts, coastal villages are literally falling into the sea as erosion accelerates, claiming land that has been inhabited for centuries. I remember my conversation with a civil engineer, named Dmitry, who specializes in infrastructure in the Arctic. He used to be proud of the resilience of Russian construction. Now, he talks about a constant battle against the elements. We build, and the earth moves. We repair, and then the waters rise. It's like fighting ghosts, he said, with a haunted look in his eyes. He worries not just for the pipelines and roads, but for the very people living in these vulnerable areas. This is a nation built on certain climatic assumptions, now finding those assumptions dangerously outdated. This highlights Russia's enormous vulnerability to climate chaos. Despite recognizing climate change as a national security threat in its updated climate doctrine of 2023, and engaging in climate diplomacy, constrained by economic pressures and a continued reliance on fossil fuel exports. If this stark reality of climate change hitting a major global player is making you sit up and take notice, Please, smash that like button right now. Your support helps us bring these urgent global stories to the forefront. And here's a critical promise for what's coming next. This isn't just an environmental problem, it's a geopolitical game changer. Russia's struggle with climate change, particularly in the Arctic, is opening new economic opportunities even as it creates profound risks, leading to a complex and often contradictory strategy on the world stage. Don't even think about clicking away. Because next, we're going to explore how Russia's extreme climate challenges are paradoxically shaping its Arctic ambitions and its global energy strategy, creating a high-stakes gamble with the planet's future. You've seen the chaos. Now let's understand its strategic implications. What are your thoughts on how countries adapt to such extreme climate events? Do you believe the economic benefits of resource extraction in vulnerable areas outweigh the environmental risks? Share your insights and concerns in the comments below. Let's make this a space for informed, critical discussion about our shared planet. Number 4. A tourist dream, a traveler's puzzle. Think about it, from the legendary Trans-Siberian Railway, an epic journey across continents, to the breathtaking golden domes of St. Petersburg and the vibrant energy of Moscow's Red Square, Russia offers a truly unique travel experience. It boasts some of Earth's grandest landscapes, cultural heritage that shaped world literature and art, and a history that is both profound and captivating. It should be on every traveler's bucket list, a top destination like Paris or Rome. I recently spoke to a seasoned traveler, Marcus, who used to lead small group tours around the world. He had a lifelong dream of organizing a Trans-Siberian adventure. He meticulously researched the routes, the hidden gems, the local experiences. It's a continent in itself, he'd say, a living museum of cultures and landscapes. But for years, his dream tour remained just that, a dream. Why? Because Russia, for international tourists, is a traveler's puzzle, riddled with frustrating obstacles. First, tight visas. While Russia did introduce an electronic visa for citizens from 62 countries, allowing stays of up to 16 days, this still excludes many major Western nations like the USA, Canada, the UK, and Australia, who still need the more complex traditional visa process. And even for e-visa-eligible countries, the process can be cumbersome, requiring official invitations and detailed itineraries. In contrast, many popular tourist destinations offer visa-free entry or simple visa on arrival for a wide range of nationalities. This creates a significant barrier for spontaneous or independent travel. Then there's the language barrier. Outside of Moscow and St. Petersburg, English proficiency drops significantly. While major tourist sites in big cities might have English-speaking staff or signs, venture off the beaten path, and you'll find navigation, ordering food, or even asking for directions incredibly challenging without Russian language skills or a reliable translation app. This limits authentic local immersion for many travelers. And of course, the elephant in the room, geopolitical tensions. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has dramatically impacted international perceptions and travel advisories. Many Western governments advise against all non-essential travel to Russia due to security risks and arbitrary law enforcement. Direct flight bans from major Western carriers mean longer, more expensive indirect routes. International credit card systems like Visa and MasterCard are not functional within Russia, forcing tourists to carry large amounts of cash or rely on alternative payment methods, which is a major logistical headache. As a result, Internationals 2022, with some estimates suggesting inbound visitors were as low as 800,000 to 850,000 in summer 2025, mainly from China, UAE, Iran, and India. The real-world consequence is that the world is missing out on one of Earth's grandest landscapes. This isn't just about lost tourism revenue for Russian economy. It's about a lost opportunity for cultural exchange, for mutual understanding, for people-to-people connections that transcend politics. Interestingly, domestic tourism thrives. Russians, unable or unwilling to travel abroad, are exploring their own vast country. In 2024, Russians took over 92 million domestic trips. The government is actively supporting this, investing in infrastructure and promoting local destinations. This is a positive development for internal economic activity and national pride, but it doesn't replace the benefits of international tourism. If you're feeling that pang of curiosity, enigmatic land, despite the challenges, then please, smash that like button. Your interest keeps these important conversations alive and highlights the human side of geopolitics. And here's a promise for what's coming next. This isolation in tourism is a symptom of a much larger issue. It's creating a unique cultural landscape within Russia, one that is increasingly self-reliant but also increasingly insular. Do not click away. Because next, we're going to explore how Russia's growing self-reliance, both economically and culturally, is shaping its identity and its interactions with the outside world, from its pivot to Asian markets to its attempts to foster a unique Russian national culture. Now let's explore their profound long-term impact on Russia's global standing and internal cohesiveness. What are your thoughts on the role of tourism in bridging cultural divides? Would you consider traveling to a country with significant geopolitical tensions or visa challenges? Share your perspectives and travel dreams in the comments. Vibrant and insightful. Number 3. Digitally connected, politically cuffed. Here's the hard fact. Russia is incredibly online. As of early 2025, over 92% of Russians are internet users. That's about 133 million people. They have widespread access to lightning-speed internet, with median fixed broadband speeds of around 87 to 89 megabits per second in 2024. Mobile internet penetration is also exceptionally high. On the surface, it looks like a digital utopia. But here's the stark reality. They live behind a sophisticated, ever-tightening digital wall. It's not about being offline. It's about being controlled online. Remember how we touched on digital shutdowns and censorship earlier? This is the deeper, more pervasive reality. Western platforms have been systematically banned or heavily throttled. Facebook and Instagram were blocked in 2022. X/Twitter has been heavily restricted. And as of mid-December 2024, YouTube, historically the largest video sharing platform in Russia, became practically inaccessible without a VPN, due to deliberate throttling by Roskomnadzor, Russia's internet regulator. This pushed YouTube's traffic share in Russia from 43% pre-throttling to a mere 6 to 12% by January 2025. Signal, Discord, and Viber were also blocked in the second half of 2024. The state is actively promoting domestic alternatives like VKontakte (VK), which had 93.8 million active users in Russia in early 2025, and Rutube, Russia's YouTube analog, whose audience increased by 8% as YouTube slowed. This isn't just about what's blocked, it's about what's monitored. Algorithms are watched, content is vetted, and dissent is flagged. A law passed in March 2024 even criminalizes the spread of information about how to circumvent internet restrictions, like VPNs. Roskomnadzor issued 47 removal requests to Google for VPN apps from its Play Store in March 2025 alone, and Apple has removed over 100 VPN apps from its Russian App Store since July 2024. This makes it incredibly difficult, and risky, for ordinary Russians to access uncensored information. Let me tell you about Anya, not our economist Anya, but a different Anya, a bright 19-year-old student from Saratov. She grew up on YouTube, learning about global trends, watching international news, connecting with online communities. When YouTube started slowing, then became virtually unusable, she felt a profound sense of loss. She tried VPNs, but they are increasingly unreliable, slow, or simply disappear from app stores. Now she spends more time on VK, seeing content pushed by state-affiliated channels, and relying on private Telegram chats for alternative news, always with a trouble. It's like living in a beautiful house, she told a friend, but all the windows are painted over, and someone else chooses what's on the TV. This is the real-world consequence. The youth are online, yes, but they are increasingly censored, tired, and watching the world from inside a firewall. This stunts critical thinking, limits exposure to diverse viewpoints, and fosters a sense of isolation from the global community. It's a subtle but powerful form of control, shaping not just what people see, but what they think and believe. If this digital reality is chilling you, if you see the immense implications of such widespread online control, please, smash that like button right now. Your support helps us shed light on these critical human rights issues. And here's a crucial promise for what's coming next. This digital crackdown isn't just about internal control. It's a key piece of Russia's broader strategy for information warfare and disinformation on the global stage. Do not click away. Because next, we're going to explore how this tightly controlled domestic digital space is being leveraged to project power and narratives far beyond Russia's borders, influencing global perceptions and challenging democratic norms. You've seen the internal digital cage, now let's understand its powerful international reach. What are your thoughts on the long-term impact of extensive internet censorship on a society, especially its youth? How do you think citizen walls? Share your insights and concerns in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation vital and illuminating. Number 2. Guardians of the Wild. Russia, with its immense size and diverse landscapes, is literally a global ark for biodiversity. Here's a hard fact. Russia boasts over 13,000 protected areas of various categories, covering more than 2 million square kilometers, 11% of the country's territory. Within these sanctuaries, efforts are made to shelter some of the world's most iconic and endangered species. We're talking about the critically endangered Amur leopard, with its population slowly climbing to around 120 to 130 individuals in 2023, largely thanks to dedicated conservation efforts and the establishment of protected areas like Land of the Leopard National Park. We're also talking about the elusive snow leopard, whose population in Russia has reportedly increased from 10 to 87 in the last decade due to conservation efforts. These aren't just animals, they are vital threads in the tapestry of global biodiversity. I once followed the journey of a young Russian biologist, named Sasha, who dedicated her life to tracking Amur leopards in the Far East. She'd spend weeks in remote, freezing conditions, setting up camera traps, analyzing tracks, and educating local communities. Her eyes would gleam when she spoke of a new cub sighting. Every individual, she'd say, is themselves, and we are theirs. She believes, deeply, in the power of people to protect what's left. And here's where ecotourism enters the picture. It holds immense promise. When done right, ecotourism can be a powerful force for good, providing desperately needed funding for conservation, creating economic opportunities for local communities, and fostering a sense of ownership and pride in protecting these natural wonders. Imagine guided tours to spot rare birds, ethical safaris to see a wild tiger, or treks through pristine forests with local experts. It could generate revenue that directly supports park rangers, anti-poaching units, and scientific research. However, and this is the crucial caveat, ecotourism can only save these lands if it's done right. Without strong protections and careful management, tourism can paradoxically destroy what it tries to preserve. This is a global challenge, and Russia is no exception. The real-world consequence here: habitat degradation from excessive foot traffic, disturbance to breeding animals, pollution from waste, increased pressure on local resources, and the risk of poaching if economic benefits don't reach local communities. For example, a 2024 study on the Avachinsky Pass in Kamchatka, a World Heritage Site, noted that while high biodiversity still exists, an excessive number of visitors has led to soil trampling and the extirpation of some threatened animals in specific areas, even within a protected zone. While Russia is keen to develop ecotourism, with an increase in visitation to national parks, over 11.8 million visitors in 2024, nearly double from 2019, the rapid growth of visitor impact and ensuring sustainability. The balance between conservation and exploitation hangs by a thread. Russia has incredible potential to be a leader in sustainable ecotourism, but it requires a delicate touch: robust enforcement of environmental laws, investment in proper infrastructure, like waste management and designated trails, effective visitor limits, and genuine engagement with indigenous and local communities who are the true guardians of these lands. If you believe that protecting these natural treasures is a global imperative, if you see the urgent need for responsible engagement with Russia's wilderness, please smash that like button right now. Your support helps us highlight these vital environmental stories. And here's a crucial tease for what's coming next. The fate of Russia's wildlands, and its unique species, is deeply connected to its geopolitical future. The ability to manage these resources responsibly will not only define its environmental legacy, but also its standing on the global stage. Do not click away. Because next, for our #1 insight, we're going to tie all these threads together: the economy, the society, the climate, and the environment, to reveal the ultimate challenge facing Russia, its capacity to adapt and thrive in a rapidly changing world, and the choices it faces that will determine its destiny and impact all of us. You've seen the beauty and the peril. Now let's understand the ultimate stakes. What are your thoughts on the responsibility of tourists to engage ethically with natural environments? How can governments best balance the economic benefits of tourism with the imperative of conservation? Share your insights and personal experiences in the comments below. Let's keep this a space for thoughtful, passionate advocacy for our planet. #1. Russia's crossroads. At the heart of all this complexity is a fundamental question that will define not just Russia's future, but potentially its impact on the entire world. Will Russia's raw beauty and immense power guide it toward a bold future, or sink it deeper into the shadows of an aging, isolated empire? The hard facts we've uncovered reveal a nation under immense pressure, facing monumental choices. Let's recap. The economy teeters. Russia's GDP growth is projected to slow to 1.4% in 2025 and 1.2% in 2026, down from 4.1% in 2024, according to the World Bank. High interest rates, around 21%, and inflation, officially 5.9% in 2025, but feeling much higher to ordinary people, are stifling investment and household consumption. Dependency on volatile oil and gas revenues, which still account for vulnerable to global price fluctuations and sanctions. The long-term forecast suggests stagnation, with a risk of stagflation if key reforms aren't made and sanctions aren't lifted. The youth flee. The demographic crisis is severe. Russia's population declined by over 700,000 between 2024 to 2025, with birth rates at their lowest in over 200. Rostat's low variant suggest an annual population shrinkage of around 700,000 over the next 20 years, reaching 142 million by 2030 and potentially 130 million by 2046. The loss of skilled workers due to emigration and war is creating severe labor shortages, with an official estimate of a need for 2.4 million more workers by 2030 in various sectors. The wilderness burns. Climate change impacts are escalating. Siberia's wildfires burned over 21 million acres in 2024. Permafrost melt is destabilizing vast regions, threatening critical infrastructure, with 20% of buildings in some Arctic regions already deformed. The economic cost of these climate impacts is projected to reach 1 to 2% of GDP annually by 2030, a direct hit to an already strained economy. And the people endure. Despite immense pressures, the resilience of the Russian people is remarkable. They adapt to economic hardship, navigate digital walls, and strive for normalcy. But beneath the surface, between urban centers and struggling rural areas, and a sense of fatigue among the youth facing limited opportunities and pervasive censorship. I'm thinking of someone like Victor. He's a middle-aged factory worker in a small town, a patriot who loves his country. He sees the news, feels the pinch of rising prices, worries about his son who left for Moscow because there were no jobs. He's proud of Russia's strength, but he quietly wonders if the current path is truly leading to a better life for his family, or just more struggle. His endurance is the backbone of the nation, but for how long can that endurance be stretched? Russia's story isn't over, far from it. But the next chapter, the choices made in the coming years, could change everything. Will it double down on isolation, censorship, and a resource-driven economy, further depleting its human and natural capital? Or will it find a way to foster innovation, embrace diversification, genuinely empower its highly educated population, and reconcile with the global community to unlock its immense potential? This isn't just about Russia, it's about global stability, energy markets, climate action, and the future of international relations. If this deep dive has given you a profound new understanding of Russia, if you see the immense stakes at this crossroads, then please right now, smash that like button. Your support helps us continue to bring these complex, critical, and human stories to light, sparking essential conversations around the world. And now for the final thought, Russia's choices at this crossroads will ripple outwards, affecting global geopolitics, climate action, energy markets, and the very shape of the 21st century. The world is watching. What are your thoughts on what Russia's path forward should be? What factors do you believe will most influence its destiny in the coming decade? Share your predictions, your hopes, and your concerns in the comments below. Let's have a respectful, informed, and truly global discussion about Russia's future.